Hey Antoine, how you doing today?
I'm great, thanks, Eddie. How are you?
Doing great as well. Thank you for coming to the show. Today, I want to talk specifically about your managed sales teams because buyers of the CloudTools marketplace may be looking at your service offer, and this will help them decide if they want to invite you for an interview for their service request or not. There's three questions that I want to cover with you today, Antoine. So let's jump into the first one, which is who is the best fit for this service offer?
So really, companies that are either looking to explore selling into a market, whether it be a new geographical market or whether it be that they've developed a product or a service, and maybe they don't quite know the ICP as yet. Maybe they haven't had enough conversations to really understand who they need to be selling to. So we work with those types of companies, and they can be the likes of marketing agencies, they can be tech or software companies. We tend to work very well with kind of service-based or product-based companies, but also those that already have a sales motion in place. They have product market fit. They just need more people to be able to, kind of deliver outbound for them. And we work very well with those types of organizations as well. So to give you a very good example, we work with companies that are anywhere between zero to $500,000 in revenue, right the way through to nine-figure companies that are in multiple locations worldwide, but they are looking to cement their kind of product into a new region, for example.
Okay, perfect. So whether they have an existing team, they want to ramp up the productivity and quickly add people to the outbound motions, they can look for you, or developing a new go-to-market validation, let's say a new market, a new product, that could be an also a good fit company. How about you tell me a little bit of who could not be a good fit? Maybe companies or products or stages of development where probably you wouldn't be the best fit and they should be looking at another offer from you.
Yeah, so we tend not to work with companies that absolutely have no idea of kind of whether or not their product is something that can be used by the market. They've got no validation whatsoever in terms of really having any kind of past use cases. They may be inexperienced. They may be like in a position right now where they're not really too sure on whether or not it's something that is a long-term play. So
Mhm.
they're thinking that it's maybe very short term, might be a 6-week stint that they want to just try and test something out. We don't really operate with those types of organizations. We would say that there's a lot kind of cheaper ways to go about and do that for yourself internally. Then
Mhm.
once you've got some kind of understanding internally of what that should look like or what it could look like or who you could potentially speak to, then come and work with us, and we'll then develop that motion in a much more, in a much better way.
Perfect. Now that we're talking about the motion or the sales campaign, the sales strategy that you're going to deploy for your customers, why don't you tell me what are the components of the service software that they'll receive once they hire you?
So we are really talking about how we compile together all of the actions required to go to market. So we will understand what you're trying to achieve, the impact that you will have on the prospects that you're actually looking to speak with. And then our outbound motion is multi-channel. So we specifically focus within calling, LinkedIn, and email. We are a calling first agency, so we believe in the power of conversations. So we have a data team in-house. We leverage 15 different B2B data platforms, cross-reference them, and build out our lists based on channel optimized leads. So we like to understand where is the best channel in order to contact your specific prospect base on, and then we segment our outbound strategy based on that calling optimization. And then from there, we will have our team that will deliver outbound for you across those channels. We have a reporting mechanism in place every single week where we sit down with the stakeholder who's responsible within the business for driving this campaign. We will report on key metrics such as the activities on a daily basis, how much time has been spent on the activity. Typically, we work on an hourly basis, so it could be a minimum of 2 hours a day, up to a maximum of 6 hours a day, for example, 8 hours a day, depending on the type of campaign that we'll be running for the customer. We also really like to do a deep dive on messaging, so ICP creation, ICP building. What are the challenges? What are the emotional aspects that we need to understand about your prospects? Why do they need your services? How are they doing their job today? What do they need in order to benefit more from the type of work that you're able to do for them? And we build this out into a very comprehensive framework about how to then go outbound to your prospects. And we write the copy within that. We collaborate with our customers so they understand what type of emotional connection we're trying to make with their audience via the messaging. That's not just through obviously the phone, that's also through LinkedIn, and that's also through email. And then on top of that, we also have a LinkedIn strategy which combines the power of commenting at scale in order to then drive prospecting through LinkedIn by using those warm connections that we've made to then put into our outbound motion from a calling perspective. So everything ties in. It's a very, very kind of dense service that is offered, typically at a minimum of 6 months that we would suggest in order to operate this, in order to get the full experience of the service.
Perfect. So 6 months to see the campaign develop, play out. You mentioned something interesting at the beginning, 15 different databases that you can use to source the different leads. Omni-channel, phone, email, LinkedIn, but phone first. So definitely an interesting way to get through, validate, speak quickly with the prospects. You mentioned you handle the messaging, you can tweak it. There's different frameworks there. One thing that I would like to maybe dig a little bit more would be, what are the roles that are working on both the front line or behind the scenes to support the delivery of the service? Are there any roles that are dedicated when someone hires this service?
Sorry, I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
Let's say, for instance, do they get a BDR, the person that's going to be doing the cold calling? Is it dedicated to their account? And aside of that, let's say BDR or SDR, cold caller, is there more people supporting him as a trainer, content writers? Is he the same person sending the emails and so on? So tell me a little bit about the roles in the delivery, which ones are exclusive and which ones could be shared with other programs, please.
Yeah, really good question. So we have dedicated account delivery specialists, as we call them, or delivery contractors. So the way that they work is they are given a campaign to work on. Now, they are absolutely adept at being able to handle all facets of outbound, but we do also have a collaborative nature inside of the business. So what that means is that we have some specialized kind of script writers or copywriters. We actually have people that are dedicated and focused to delivery and outreach on LinkedIn. And then they would collaborate with the account lead so that if there's any areas where they need help in getting that messaging in front of the prospect, but that messaging needing to land in the right way, then there's a collaborative nature in order to make that happen as best as possible. That said, in terms of outbound, from an outbound perspective on the phone, we hire and we look for super confident, very well articulated salespeople that are able to get into conversations. Whilst meetings are absolutely the be all and end all for many of the organizations that we work with, there is a lot of learning that comes out of having conversations at scale, which is where we believe that we excel. So you can see anywhere from between 8 to 12 conversations in an hour using the platforms that we use. So we need people that are able to turn on quickly, able to develop a conversation, able to ask really important and interesting questions to incite and drive curiosity, and then from there really give us an understanding as to where that prospect is now positioned within the buyer journey. And then all of that information is then sent back obviously to our customers so that they've got an understanding of where the hottest prospects are versus where nurturing prospects are, and how they need to be nurtured.
Fantastic. And when it comes to the service delivery and the tech stack that we keep coming back because you have a very complete and robust system with the databases, the dialers, the outbound motions. Is this a service in which you install the tech stack for your clients, or rather a service in which you have the tech stack, you use it to generate the leads, run the campaign, but ultimately, once you book a qualified meeting, that's what you deliver to your customer, regardless of the system that you're using? There's no really like an integration or a system setup, but rather you work, you deploy, and then you provide the outcome once the meeting is booked? Or help me
Correct.
understand, what would it be?
Correct. Yeah. So the latter part of what you said is correct. So we have invested in a bunch of systems here, which allow us to operate at the speed and efficiency that we do. That is all in-house, and we add on and we add on the amount of seats that we need for every customer that we onboard. So we operate as an extension of their team, and the information that they get sent over is information where we have had a solid conversation, or we have had a concrete action with somebody on their prospect list. So rather than sending them over just lots of data for them to put into their CRM and not know what to do with it, we only send them over the data that has been qualified to a specific disposition, where there are next stages in place, where they understand what that next stage is and how to actually deliver on that next stage. And that's the information that they get. And that way it keeps their CRM a lot cleaner. It means that our systems don't need to kind of interact with each other. And at the same time, they're getting all of the information that they need to understand how well their outbound motion is being developed.
Perfect. All right. So in that case, I just have one last question, which would be, what can a client expect in the first 120 days of buying the service? If you can walk me through, you're giving me the components, but maybe walk me through a timeline and what type of outcomes or deliverables they can expect. Let's say we kick off with a meeting, when you deliver, if it's a messaging, a playbook, the first batch of leads, and when could they start expecting the first meetings? If you could walk us through those timeframes, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, sure. So the first kind of 30 days of any engagement with us is all about creating and developing the outbound motion. So that is the ICP development, understanding and building and creating the perfect list for the outbound. It's about understanding those buyer emotions, the challenges that they face, the issues that they're going to be coming up against, and the problems that you help to solve, and understanding the gap that we need to find in order to really kind of deliver quality conversations. From there, that also is driven down into the messaging that we build out for the copy, for the email, same for LinkedIn, and then the data that we use for both the kind of the calling and also LinkedIn is then segmented and then attacked kind of simultaneously. So then that first kind of 30-day kind of sprint, if you like, is then all of that information in place, and then kind of role playing initially the script, and we do that with AI bots within the organization, so that we can kind of gauge or test the personas, if you like. So we can set them up to be really challenging to speak to. We can set them up to be kind of more compliant in terms of the disc profile, if you like, but gives us a couple of different ways of being able to get into those conversations and understanding what objections that can come up. And then from there, for the 3 weeks of that first month, we are executing on that outbound. We are delivering conversations at scale. We are calling. We are on, following up via email. We have our LinkedIn strategy that is going out, and we are then looking at the details. We're looking at all of the information that comes back from that. Did the messaging land? Are we not making it past the first part of the call? Are we getting the phone hung up on us after the first 30 seconds of delivering the impact statement? If so, what things do we need to change? And all of this is shared on a weekly basis with the customer, so they know exactly where we are with it, what challenges that we're experiencing, and where they might be able to lend us some insight into what we can be doing differently, whether it's a language thing, whether it is being able to kind of better understand their market or their prospects, to ensure that we can have a more effective message as we go through. Then days 30 to 60 is really about repetition. It's about continuing at scale the work that we're doing, but then being able to find some wins from the follow-ups that have been created from the first month. So as much as we will be in conversations and we're going to find some of those people in that will be in market for that product or service, a lot of the work is going to be done in the follow-ups, people that we've spoken to that weren't quite ready for a conversation at that time, but there was some curiosity built, or there was some intrigue, or there was some interest. Then through the last 30 days, that's all going to be about optimization. So where did we find the most efficient way of working? What was the best messaging that we've been using so far? Where have
Mhm.
we seen the wins come from? What does the actual conversational pipeline look like? And then where do we need to be spending the bulk of our time in order to drive through more opportunities for our customers? And that is the cycle of the first 30 days, which is then, if it's a longer period of time over the 60 days, we can then delve into the analytics a little bit more in order to flesh out a much better kind of rate of effectiveness across the entire campaign.
So it's a very dense service, and I can see why you were mentioning earlier that you really recommend at least a minimum of 6 months for starting such a project to really see all the different motions over time evolve, play out in this, let's say, last stage that you're mentioning about iterating on what's already working, identifying where to double down, where to remove some efforts, etc. For the sake of efficiency. I did like that you mentioned training with AI. It's the first time that I hear that, and I definitely see more role plays taking that route because they can create more challenging scenarios that mimic
Yeah,
real time scenarios. Sometimes a lot of role plays tend to be too soft and not realistic of what your developers or your outbound business developers could be encountering.
exactly.
Awesome, Antoine. Thank you so much for this information. We hope that users of the CloudSales Marketplace taking a look at this listing can decide whether they want to invite you for an interview for their request or not. Antoine, I'll catch you on the next one.
Perfect. Cheers, Eddie.